What up, it's your boy Nick Incredible, and this is my discussion slash review for Found Episode 5, titled Missing While Undocumented. And I gotta be honest, the hope killed me this episode. Let's talk about it.
Headed out for change, I just started on my quest. Yeah, the world will know my name, I'm excited, I'm obsessed. No one in my way but myself and a test. Yeah, I will be the best, yeah, I will be the best. Life is just a game, I'll be playing till I rest. I'll be there to claim my own spot among the best.
This episode was not your typical episode. It took our typical episode and sprinkled a little salt on top of it and flipped it and then gave us something else entirely. And I'm not mad about it because it was still a great episode. This episode, we see that it's about one person that's missing and the other sibling, but it's about Sasha Mercado, I want to say, that's missing, and her brother sent in a surrogate to, tell Gabby and them that she was missing because they're both undocumented, and he couldn't really come in and do it. It was fearful, you know what I'm saying? It's like a half and half thing. On one hand, he's super worried about his sister, and on the other, he's fearful of being caught, detained, and then possibly deported before his sister is even found again. Now, the whole ordeal with the sister, man, is something entirely. She wants to go to Columbia. She wants to be a doctor. Like, she has big dreams and big aspirations, and there's nothing wrong with that. You go, girl. Chase your dreams. Now, the thing with that is she had to go about it in a roundabout and pretty unethical and illegal way, and that ended up allowing her to be tied up with some very dangerous people. And the funny thing about this episode, when I say that it flipped it and sprinkled some salt on top of it, is because we have Gabby and the entire team working this missing person case, and Trent this episode isn't really working with Gabby and the team. He's doing his own thing. Trent is working the murder case. You know what I'm saying? The entire time we haven't really dealt with murder because that's not our thing. Missing persons is our thing. And this episode, like I said, it changed it, and we're dealing with a murder case. The entirety of that murder case, which made this entire episode great, is that the murder case ended up being tied into the missing person case, which was fantastic. And Trent ended up working with Gabby and the team like he always does nonetheless. That was a cool part about this episode for me, because we're dealing with all this stuff that's going on with our missing person case. We're dealing with all the stuff that's going on with our main characters. And then we have this murder case that Trent is working. And then it ends up just being tied up together in a nice little bubble, which was great. Now, before I finish out that part of the story, let's talk about our main characters a little bit this episode. Margaret, and this is what I mean by the hope killed me. Margaret was at the bus station, and I'm assuming she went to the bathroom or something, and she noticed that one of the tabs off of her flyer was missing, and that was the entirety of the episode for Margaret. She was trying to figure out who took that tab. Maybe they knew something, and hopefully they knew something, and that hope is what got me, man. She told Gabby, and Gabby told Zeke, and Zeke was looking for the footage and stuff, and Gabby didn't really want to tell anybody else, and then Margaret ended up telling, and it got to this thing, and everybody was hopeful. I was hopeful. I was like, okay, here we go. I was on that train as well. And by the time we get to the ending of the episode, we see Margaret is so cheerful. Margaret is so happy. She's so hopeful. And by the time we get to the ending of the episode, we see that hope is just snatched away, man. It's so gut wrenching, man, because we see that Margaret is realizing that hope that small sliver of hope that she was building onto was snatched away because some freaking fool decided to take. It upsets me, man. Decided to take one of the little tabs and spit his gum in it and then put it in the trash. You could have just spit your gum in the trash from the jump. It upsets me, man, because he didn't have that to do. Then we have Don this episode. Don is looking rough. Like, Don normally comes in looking all suave and cool and collected, and not to take away from his mental health problems, but he comes in there this time, his hair's like leaning every direction except for the right way. He's got a hoodie on. He's not feeling nothing. Don ain't doing nothing. And Gabby asks, did your husband leave town? Why you say that? Because he would not let you leave the house like that. I mean, that part was funny, and they were clowning Don, but it became super serious later because we realized that Don was held captive for 3 years, and that messed him up. And I want to say it was 3 years. I think it was 3 years. I might be mixing something up. But anyway, we know that he was held captive. We'll leave it at that. And with him being held captive, alone, that isolation messed him up. So when his husband is away, Don is really, he can't stand the quiet, the isolation. He can't stand it. And you can see it in parts of the episode where it's just really driving him insane, man. And I love the fact that, ever since the first episode, Gabby is trying to get him and Zeke, to bond. And we see that this episode, he comes over to Zeke's house, to help him, well, to be there with Zeke, but for Zeke to be there with him. And I think that was such a nice connection that they made. Huge step, man, but especially for Don, and then a huge step for Don and Zeke together. And I think that was a wonderful thing for Don to reach out, knowing that he needed help in that moment. Now, we also have Gabby this episode. We see that somebody comes to her door, and it's someone that she knows, of course, and they happen to know her father, and he's been made the executor of her father's estate plans or whatever. And she's supposed to dump her father's ashes. She just can't bring herself to do it. And the interaction with this guy ended up making her treat Sir a little bit different this episode, especially after that huge connection we had in episode 4. But it made her treat Sir just a little bit different. She served him burnt toast, and for lunch she gave him like a fruit bar or something. You know what I'm saying? She wasn't studying Sir at all today, and he could tell that something had changed in her a little bit as well. And then we see the flashbacks about him possibly trying to leave the country with this chick and have her change her name. And I love what she said, like right there at the ending, in the ending part of the flashback, and was like, no, my name's Gabby Mosley. You know what I'm saying? And we know that he looks at her in that father-esque figure type thing. It's weird, but that's what he looks at her as. And we saw that in last episode where he was trying to get to her when she was going through some stuff. In this episode, we see him pull down the piece of wood or splintered wood or whatever, and like he could have hurt her, but he doesn't, because he actually, in his mind, he actually cares for her. And I want to say deep down, maybe just a smidget, there's no love, but there's some sort of connection there, especially for Gabby as well towards Sir, because otherwise anyway, whatever word I'm looking for, she would have definitely probably cut him loose or turned him over to the police or something. You know what I'm saying? So maybe there's just a sliver. It's not big, but maybe just a small portion that may be some kind of weird connection, because regardless, they were there for a year together with each other, man. So they have to have some kind of connection. And it's weird, but it is what it is. Now, to wrap up the case, like I said, Trent's case kind of intertwined with the missing person case, and we see that the guy that attacked Don in the apartment and that Gabby and them had on ice, so to speak, ended up being the guy that killed Trent's John Doe. Well, not John Doe, they figured out his name, but the murdered guy. And now he's after Sasha. Dude, like the whole entirety of it just being encapsulated as in one giant case ended up being such a great thing. I love the way that it kind of came back full circle. But we also see that Trent and Gabby kind of got a little bit closer this episode, especially right there when they were on the water, like just a little bit. But we know she can't ever bring him home. But in long story short, I think the dude's name was Manny. They ended up trying to find Sasha, and he was chasing her, and him and Don got into a fight, and then Trent saved Don. And we know that Trent and Don kind of butted heads a little bit, and after that moment, Don went in and thanked Trent for saving his life. So, like, Don is really making a lot of steps, but yet again, I love it every freaking week, because every week we get a little bit more in depth to every character, and that's just something that I really hold dear when it comes to this show, man. This is what is incredible. Don't forget to smash that like button till you can't smash it anymore. Comment down below, and I'll be sure to respond to each and every one of them, and subscribe. Peace out.
Cause I've been working a lot, I think I deserve a shot, I think I deserve a spot. Cause it's been years on this path that I walked, and if I keep going, I pray I'll be at the top.